Good afternoon. Today is Wednesday, I believe. Thursday, hopefully. Yeah. Thursday, July 25th. Um, After the market closed, look at the review. It was a weird day. It was a day that's a little out of the ordinary as far as the tools that I watch. Um, it's not quite what I expected. Still played out pretty well and was very tradable, but it's just a little bit of a strange day. Going into the open, we had 550,000 contracts traded, extremely high, especially for not really having any news. I mean, we did have a lot of data released, but that volume was already extremely high before that data was released. So there was just a ton of trade going on in the overnight, and then that carried on in the regular session. We had 2.2 million traded just in ETH. So extremely high volume today, which is just a little out of the ordinary. Um, anyway, we'll get into the newsletter. I've changed my charts up a little bit to hopefully kind of stick on one screen here. Um, so going into this morning, the overnight session has been mostly rotational around the previous settlement. And let's see, we're going to look at this one. This is our overnight. This is a previous session, and this gray area is the overnight. And then we have this regular session here. So it's mostly rotational around the previous settlement. So this was around settlement. You can see we just kind of rotated around that area. With a slew of data earnings ahead of us before the open, it's difficult to predict where we might open. I said that because we still had all that data, GDP and everything that came out at 8:30 Eastern. Yeah. Overnight inventory is mixed and volume is above average. Yesterday we mentioned there was a possibility of a gap and go, indicating a reason to put risk on early in the session. Unlike yesterday, there's been little change in the overnight session, and the probability of choppy trade at the open is higher, which we did get some chop. We had an open auction for 15 minutes or so, 10, 12 minutes, something like that. We had an open auction where we just kind of chopped before anything happened. Okay, so the trading plan, after yesterday's trend day down, the weekly time frame has flipped trend down on ES and NQ. We're expecting the daily time frame to flip trend down as well, which it did today. Yesterday there was barely a pullback, which is common on trend days, but today we expect more two-way trade. This is not the way I pictured it happening, but it was very two-way. This is what I talk about with two-way trade, where you get some nice pullbacks. We have some pullbacks on the other side of this, but not this big V-shaped excess bottom that actually ends up getting revisited. Almost got a neutral day. Weird day. Keep in mind it's written before the open. So I'm just saying that because, with all the data that was coming out, we could have some pretty big surprises, which we did have some kind of bullish data. But the reaction was delayed big time. And my point is that we could end up opening quite a bit outside of the range, but the levels would still be valid. So scenario one, this is what I expected first: lower or overlapping to lower value. This scenario expects that we will make a lower low on the daily with opportunity to sell rises and target previous lows. So again, this didn't play out the way that I wanted it to play out, or the way I expected it to play out. It's fine. It still worked, but show you why. So watch for the overnight high, currently 54.90 for seller to step in. Above this level, 55.05 could also provide an opportunity to get short. But similar to yesterday, we had an open auction today, but we never really got a rise to get a nice easy sell, I should say. The first target to the downside is 62, which was yesterday's low. That was around here somewhere. We did get a bounce there. And then 55.40, what neighborhood is that in? That's down around here. Really didn't hesitate too much. We got a little bit of a bounce. The current overnight low, the gap fill, and then also the HFT put wall. This is the ultimate target for this scenario. So other lower targets were 35 and then 15, and we came down into this 32 level here. A little easier to see it on this chart. We came down into 35 and bounced, and just had a really strong reaction there. So then flipping to scenario 2, because this came into play as well, balance day overlapping value, which is actually what we ended up with. So we saw scenario 1 play out, and then we ended up getting scenario 2 as well. We often get a rotational day after a trend day, and rotational day is where we just kind of overlap the ranges. And tomorrow we have PCE data, so I was aware or cautious that we might not get a lot of value. So going into the session, 30 minutes, an hour, nothing's happening, small ranges, then that's when I tend to back off when we have big data the next day. And light volume, which we didn't have today. Volume in the overnight session is very high. Said that again. Overnight inventory gets trapped. We could retrace most of yesterday's move lower. We retraced most of yesterday's move lower. It's just kind of like a springboard with 500,000 contracts trapped down here. And then once those guys are in trouble, plus we added another in these first two profiles, we added another, I want to say 500,000 down here. So almost 1 million contracts trapped down below yesterday's settlement. The GEX ray could provide us an indication of tight ranges and a lack of direction if the walls come in solid, or if they fail to shift, and they fail to shift. That wasn't the case on the GEX ray. It gave us a different look today. And it was actually a unique look that I'm not used to seeing on ES. It's something that's more common on equities than actually on ES. But actually, let me go ahead and pull that in right now and talk about that. So this is a GEX ray for today. And we, drives me crazy. So the red line here is a put wall. So when we broke through that put wall, it bounced immediately. We did not see any premium roll down below that put wall. It was just solid. They were there. And then we ended up moving up to the call wall, and the same thing happened. We blew right through that call wall. And more often than not, it will reject that call wall and then revisit it. And when it revisits, we tend to see it soak there a little bit, perhaps, but then the wall rolls higher. That didn't happen this time. So we'll stop there because we'll see where this level at. The wall was around 90, which was the area that we were looking for, from the pre-market. And then the wall shifted up here around 20, and we got up to 05, and that's where we rejected. So pull the plan back up. An early indication for this scenario is a lack of volume, which, like I said, this part didn't really play out. First target is 55.05 to 10. This is also an area where we're targeting a short. So we're looking for a short there. We're looking for that to happen first in the day before we really started our move down. But we got that after our move down. It was still was a really good short. Ended up getting, let's see, from 05, we had a pullback down to below 85. So over 20 points on that move down. Above 55.10, we were targeting 55.22, which came up into 22, and we had a rejection there. Let's see it a little easier on this chart. So we came up here into 22, had a rejection, and then 30 is our main target for this scenario. So we ended up coming into about 32. That was a high on the day there. That's pretty much it. This is the way our gamma looked today. We had 5,400 was our put wall. It remains. This area of high negative gamma clustered actually shifted lower today below this wall. So we had a lot of this gamma melt away, become more positive, neutralize, however you want to say that, and negative gamma shifted lower. We have even a little more negative gamma at this 5,300 level. So if we can get below this 5,400, we're looking to target 5,350 and then 5,300. We got a little more gamma on 5,350 today too. We also got a little bit more positive gamma on the call wall, 5,700, and then the GEX wall rolled down a little bit lower, just as a result of this negative gamma pushing down. So everything looks very similar here, just a little more negative, a little lower gamma clustering below the put wall now. So that's an interesting development today, and I'll cover that in the newsletter in the morning. And other than that, in the newsletter, like I said, we flipped to trend down on the daily on ES and NQ. R2I was an outside day today, so these pretty much stayed the same, but we're now down on 2 time frames on ES and NQ. We have a little bit of room to the monthly on NQ, and look for that to be support probably tomorrow, depending on how we open up, and PCE, what that'll do to us in the overnight session. ES a little more room, so it's less likely to be hit. That's it for today. So hope everyone had a good day trading, and we'll see you all in the morning.